So we had some technical issues. Everybody got the wrong Zoom, including yours truly. Okay, hopefully next week we will have a full quorum. I did send out WhatsApp to the people I could. I'm wondering, we have another 2 minutes, but all right. We'll start a minute or two late to give people a chance to hopefully find this new Zoom. Hey, Sunny, how are you?
Mike,
We'll give it another minute or two because everybody got the wrong Zoom ID, and we'll start like a minute or two late. Here, what's the Zoom tonight for tonight's class? Yes, good question. Let me send it now. Somebody just sent me a message. Okay, Mark. Yes, thank you. Give me a moment. Okay, so we'll give it a few more minutes for the people straggling in. Hey, Jordan, how did you find the right Zoom? Out there on the West Coast, you guys are 3 hours or 4 hours behind us.
Yes, hello, Rabbi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how did you find the right Zoom address?
I was using your link that you sent, which is very helpful.
Okay, hopefully, I guess you didn't see the original link, which was mistaken. So
I saw the most recent one on the chat that you put it on, so I just clicked that, and very easy.
Okay, all right, very good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol yan baro.
Amen.
Oh, let me send. I know who. Somebody just asked me a message also. Okay, let me just get this. Okay. All right, so let's start. I see that people are beginning to straggle in, and hopefully by next week we will have the technical issues behind us. Let me see if I can share a screen. Give me a moment, please. Here we go. Share screen. Oh, I think it's gonna work. Okay, so you should all be able to see the Mishnah in front of you. And on the side, you probably can see me. So first of all, Biruchim Abayim to everybody. I love the fact that we have people from different places, from upstate New York, from the West Coast. I know last week we have people from Eretz Yisrael. I hope they're not on the wrong site. Let me just send a message and then we'll get started. So we do have a great class set up for today. Let me just, here we go. Okay, link for tonight's class. Okay, so I just want to go back for a moment to the following topic. And the Hachamim of Andalusia, the Hachamim of Andalus. And people often think of, about the fact that we're Sephardic Jews, and of course we're Sephardic, that's correct. But they don't realize that Spain, back then in the days of Maimonides and before, wasn't a single unified country. the area of Andalus, what we call Andalus, and the Muslims also refer to it as Andalus, was under Muslim rule, and they spoke Arabic.
This whole thing?
And hold on one second, let me just take a little
It takes just a long time.
What does that mean? It takes a long time. What takes a long time?
Okay, so in Muslim Spain, in the area where Harambam comes from and the teachers of Harambam come from, they spoke Arabic. And not only they spoke Arabic, it was a different culture. It was a very advanced culture where people studied philosophy, where people studied mathematics, where the kings and the political leaders, they were very enlightened, and they had court poets, and many of the court poets were Jewish, and many of the Jews were physicians. So they were men of great learning. It was a place where the architecture was beautiful, where the natural surroundings were beautiful. And although there were some ebbs and flows, as there always are in the Jewish relations with the Muslims, generally, things were fairly good for the Jews in Andalus, Andalus being southern Spain. Now, the area of Andalus encompassed all the way from Valencia to Granada to Sevilla to of course, Cordova. And this was very different than northern Spain. Northern Spain was Christian. Northern Spain spoke a different language. Northern Spain had a different culture. And you know that today they have a movement, the Catalans want to break off from Spain. The reason the Catalans want to break off from Spain is because of the fact that they really are different. So Spain was, is actually a patchwork of different cultures and people that got together. They formed the Spanish nation. But back then, Andalus was separate. And as I told you, the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot mentions Andalus. It mentions, actually, to be precise, it mentions Cordova. And I'm going to share the screen with you, and I'm going to read with you what the Gemara says in Masechet Yevamot. It says as follows. Does everybody see the screen? You will see it? Yes, okay.
Yep. Yes.
I see nodding. Okay, so the Gemara says as follows. Yishak, Resh Galuta, Bar Ahate de Rabbi Havaka Azil mi Cordova. Did you see that word? Cordova le Aspamia. Yitzchak was the head of the Jewish community in Babylonia. He left Babylonia. That's the place where the Gemara was written. And he went to visit. He was in Cordova, and he left Cordova, and he went to visit Spain, because Spain was to the north of Cordova. And then the Gemara continues, and he says that he died. So here you see that the Jewish community in Andalus was already from the days of the Gemara. Okay, so there was a direct connection between Chachmei Gemara and the Chachmei of Andalus. Okay, so that's really important to know. So it's not just like, some exotic, story about Judaism. It's like I'm going to tell you about Jews who are, in some exotic place in the world, some island alone. No, this is where the Chachamim of the Gemara and where the wisdom of the Gemara went to. It went from Babylonia, it went directly to the area of Andalus. And before we continue reading the Pirque Avot, I want to tell you another thing. And that is that while Harambam is the best known Hacham of Andalus, right? Maimonides, everybody heard of Maimonides. We have hospitals named after him. We have schools named after him. We have streets named after him. He's probably the most well-known Hacham in human history, perhaps. And yet, he was a product of a society. He was a product of a civilization, right? He was at the very end. Actually, when Harambam was a child, fairly young, around 13 years old, Andalus was destroyed. The fanatic Muslims came, the Berbers came, and they destroyed it, and he had to run away. And that was the end. That was the end of that civilization. So always people think, oh, Harambam, was the greatest Hacham, and he was, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Others can disagree, of course. But the point being that Harambam was a member of a particular civilization, right? He wasn't produced in a vacuum. And somebody is just asking me where the class is. Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. I'm just going to answer them. Okay, let me shut my phone. I apologize. People are calling me because I want to know where the class is, but I just can't interrupt every 2 seconds. So at this point, I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay, so let me just mention to you some of the names of the Hachamim who came a little before Harambam or a lot before Harambam. So you know, it's not that he came in a vacuum. There was a Rabbi Baruch ben Yitzhak ibn al-Baliyah. Anybody heard of him? Raise your hand. No? Okay. There was Rabbi Yosef ibn Megas. You probably heard of him because I mentioned him last week. Good. That's right, Nathan. Okay. There was Rabbi Yosef ibn Sal. There was Rabbi Yosef Sadiq. There was Rabbi Moshe ben Aiza. There was Rabbi Yehuda Levi. You all heard of Rabbi Yehuda Levi. There was Rabbi Yochanan ben Me'in Hanasi. There was Rabbi Yehuda ben Gad. There was Samuel ben Moriel. There was, of course, Samuel and Agid. There were many Chachamim. It was an entire civilization. And Harambam was at the peak, was the finest product of that civilization. But so why am I saying this? Because everybody says, oh, that's Maimonidean, that's Harambam, that's his view. And they forget that this was where the wisdom of the Talmud went to. And there were so many Chachamim and Yeshivot there, and Harambam studied with these Chachamim and studied in these Yeshivot. So we're studying the Pirque Abot. What we're doing is we're studying it in accordance with the wisdom of Andalusia. Okay, so you understand my perspective is going to be a bit different perhaps than the perspective that you would hear in other classes. Okay, not that they're better or worse. It's just different. You know, you can choose for yourself what you enjoy more, but I just want to explain where I'm coming from. And I want to share one screen with you, and then we'll go to the actual text. So give me a moment. Stop. How do I do this? Stop share, and then I'm going to do a reshare. Okay, here we go. So here you see, and we said this last week, the air mark of the Andalusian thinking, the Hachamim in Andalus, they had a slightly different perspective. And it was as follows. Number one, when they would study Torah, when they would explain Torah, when they would discuss Torah, it was all based upon a close and meticulous reading of the text, right? So you have the Torah, you have the Pasuk. What does the Pasuk say? You want to know what the halakha is? Read the law carefully. What does it say, right? So all wisdom is generated from the texts of Israel. That's the first thing. The second thing, and the second earmark of Andalusian thinking is the Torah comes to unite people. It comes to build bridges. Wisdom should build bridges. It should unite people. And this brings us to the final thought that Judaism is not a theological system. As I said, there is no word for theology in Hebrew. It doesn't exist. Judaism is a system of laws predicated upon the Berit, the eternal covenant between God and the Jewish people. So that's, in a nutshell, a summary of the way the Andalusians approach the Torah, the way the Hachamim, Harambam, and his colleagues approach the Torah. And now I want to take you back to the Mishnah in Pirque Abot. We are now going to read the Mishnah. Let me do a share screen once more, and we'll start looking at the Mishnah.
Rabbi Abe.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain why you're making the distinction of quote unquote Judaism being a system of laws predicated by Berit versus theology? Can you just touch on? I know that's an important point.
Absolutely.
Please.
It is an important point.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When you deal with theology, always theology creates differences between people. Religious wars are aplenty. Crusades are numerous. Jihads are all over the place. Religion, theology, always emphasizes differences. And this is why, unfortunately, and I say this humbly, Oftentimes you have different sects in Judaism, and it could be religious sects. I'm talking about religious, even ultra-religious sects. And there's sometimes animosity between if you're like from this sect or from that sect, or that's theology. You will never find any religious wars taken by the kings of Israel where they said, we have to go to France and kill all the infidels. We have to go to Russia and convert everyone to Judaism. It never interested us. It didn't interest us because we're not a theological system. We are a system of laws, and the laws apply to us. We're the Jews. So we don't go and preach to others. You must become, we don't go, our vision of the world when the Mashiach comes is not the Mashiach will go and force everybody to become Jewish or they will all be killed. I will say even more than that. We are the only system that believes in the world to come and says the world to come is open to anybody who is good in the eyes of God, whether he be Jew, of course, the Jews, or Gentiles. Gentiles, a good Gentile is Halak l'Olam Haba. So you see how when you shift from theology, you shift to halacha, you shift to berit, it changes everything. Suddenly, we get to the system of Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam, instead of Talmid Bar Minam, Chas v'Shalom, the other way around, that there's a sin'ah, and there's fighting, and there's, one of the, now it's Yom HaShoah. It's Yom HaShoah, and it's a very, very sad day. And one of the amazing stories that I heard, and I guess if we're talking about this, so we should mention Yom HaShoah. Well, one of the sad stories was the Warsaw Ghetto. And the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, which unfortunately was not successful. And it was, all the stories of the Shoah are just simply unbelievable stories. They're incredible stories. There's like, they're incredible on so many different levels. But anyway, this particular story is a story that makes me sad. So there was two sects in the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, and there was a disagreement between the sects as to how to approach the uprising. And there was a point in time when they realized it's all over. It's all over. They're losing. They're soon going to be killed. And the incredible thing is, notwithstanding that, they couldn't get together. They couldn't get together. Let's look at the Jews in the Beit Sheni, when, again, theology was emphasized and there was these religious sects, and they were fighting each other. I mean, one group was burning the food of the entire city of Jerusalem, leading to mass starvation. So you see that when you have theology, you have fanaticism. When you have fanaticism, you're going to have dissonance and you're going to have fighting. When you have berit, you have halacha. That unifies the people. And it's such an important message. And this is the message of the Hachamim of Andalus, by the way. I'm not making it up. This is Harambam. This is all the Hachamim that I mentioned. And this is the Gemara. This is the way it works. And in fact, this will take us perfectly to the first Mishnah. What is the first Mishnah about? The first Mishnah is about this very subject. It's about the idea of berit. And I'm going to share with you the screen, just so you see the first words of the Mishnah. And let me just do this for you. I'm going to get good at this Zoom. Okay. The first Mishnah in Pirque Abot is Moshe kibel Torah miSinai umsara liYoshua. Moses received the Torah in Mount Sinai, and he gave it to Joshua. Right there, the center of Judaism, and the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot is those words, the idea of a covenant. Moses received the Torah, he gave it to the Jewish people. That was the covenant between God and the Jewish people. I stopped moving on the screen. Does everybody still hear me? Yes? Okay, great. So that's the idea of the covenant. And that shows you how this type of thinking is not just at the heart of Chachmei Andalus, right? But it's actually at the heart of the Hachamim of the Mishnah, right? The Hachamim of the Gemara. So I want to explain to you what this Mishnah means. Now, I told you that that part of the methodology of the Hachamim of Andalus is to look at every word. And I think you are going to enjoy what I'm about to do now. I really do believe that. Because I'm going to now analyze this Mishnah. I'm going to analyze the text in a thorough fashion. and you're going to see how every single word is rich with meaning. Everybody ready? Yes? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, Michael. All right, so here we go. So let me. Okay, so you all see the Mishnah. Okay. So now, give me a moment. Just trying to deal with a technical issue here. All right. All right. So here's the important thing. The Mishnah says that Moses received the Torah. It says that Moshe kibel. Let's start with the word Moshe. Why was it Moses? Why was Moses chosen to receive the Torah? Okay? And the answer is because not that he was the most intelligent man of his generation. He was the most intelligent man of his generation, but that's not the reason that he was chosen to receive the Torah. Not because he was the holiest man that ever lived, the highest level of nevuah that ever lived. It's true, he was the highest level of nevuah that ever lived. The reason Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen to receive the Torah is because that is correct, he was humble. And the question is as follows. Why do I care that he was humble? It says Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, and we know what Moshe was. He was the most humble person. Ve'aish Moshe anav me'od. He was not just anav; he was very humble. And the Torah tells us this about Moshe Rabbeinu to tell us that's why he was chosen. But what do I care that he was humble?
Because humility, it means that you understand that you're a vessel for input, meaning it's not like his ego is there's no ego there. So he was able to clearly take the input and transmit it.
I want to tell you, first that's very nice. And I want to tell you that it's more than that.
Okay.
Because we all have minds and the mind receives information and processes information, right? That's what the brain does. Mm-hmm. But the brain is never, and it's not immaculate. There is an ego. And the ego tells us how to process the information. It's just the way the mind works. Here's the point. We are now in the presence of God. We don't want the filter of the ego. We want God's word coming in as clearly and as precisely, unadulterated by any human considerations, unadulterated by any arrogance, by any pushback, by any, oh wait, that law doesn't make sense to me. Wait, when Hashem told me this, he must have meant something. Oh, we all do that, right? We all do that.
Right, like it's perfectly clear.
Right? That's why
it goes back out without any of his like intrusions or interpretation.
Right. Number one, exactly. So that's why it's Moshe Rabbeinu. And just to emphasize this, the Chachamim say that Sinai, from all the mountains, was the lowest mountain, to emphasize the importance of humility. When you study Torah, be humble. Too often times people study Torah and they come with their ego and they impose their ideas upon the Torah. So if you're coming from a particular, political perspective, let's say and I'm not saying this perspective is correct or it's not correct. I'm not talking politics, you know that. You come from a very liberal mindset, you will find the liberal aspects of the Torah and you will way overemphasize them. You come from a very, you believe in totalitarianism, you'll use the Torah to show how monarchy and totalitarianism are the right thing and you will overemphasize those. You come from a capitalistic perspective, you will do the same thing. Moshe, you're studying Torah, be like Moses. Don't impose your personal views on God's views. Be like Har Sinai. Okay, so that's number one, Moshe. That's the first thing, Moses. Misinai. What's wrong with the word Moshe kibel Torah misinai? I'll explain what kibel means in a moment. Now I want a word misinai. What does misinai mean and what's wrong with that?
From the mountain.
From the mountain of Sinai. What's wrong with that?
The mountain is inanimate?
Right, but it's telling us, okay, well, we want to know where he received it because as a matter of history, we want to know the time.
Yeah, but misinai doesn't mean where he received it. That means who, from what did he receive it?
Yeah, but no, I think it's telling us where he received it. You know why it's so important? Because in Jewish law, if you have a witness coming to court, and I say this so many times in my class, and if you have a witness coming to court, what's the first thing you ask the witness? He's going to come and testify in court. What do you need to know? When did you see it? and where did you see it? Time and space. If you cannot identify time and space, you can't testify about it.
Yeah, but where's God?
What?
I'm saying the Mishnah doesn't talk about Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It just says Misinai.
Misinai. That's it, because it's a historical event. So the Mishnah is emphasizing this is history. We know where it took place. We know when it took place. Misinai, but it should have said Besinai. Moshe Kibel Torah Besinai, in Mount Sinai. It says Misinai, from Mount Sinai. What's the difference between Besinai and Misinai? Besinai means he received it in the mountain, but it doesn't say that. He received it from the mountain. Why from the mountain? And the answer is as follows. Because he only received the Torah in Sinai 40 days and 40 nights. Later on, he came down the mountain and he continued to receive laws from God in Ohel Moed. So Sinai was the beginning, but there was a continuation. There was a flow of wisdom from God to Moses in Ohel Moed. You understand why it starts with Sinai? Because it's only a starting point. If it would have said Besinai, that means that's where he received the Torah and nowhere else. Sinai means he received it from there to begin with, but then it continued. So I'll give you an example. When it was Chag Pesach, the first Pesach that the Jews celebrated was in Egypt. The second Pesach that the Jews celebrated was in the desert. And there was people who were Temeim, and they couldn't bring the Korban Pesach. And they come to Moshe Rabbeinu, they say, Anachnu Temeim lenefesh adam, lama nigara me'akriv Pesach b'mo'ado. We are impure, we cannot bring the Korban Pesach. We want to bring the Korban Pesach. What can we do? What does Moses do?
He gives them another chance.
Where does he get the information from?
He asks God.
He asks God, exactly. You see, he was no longer in Sinai. So God continued giving him the mitzvot afterwards. There were some mitzvot that came afterwards, right? So that's the idea of Sinai and not Besinai. Okay, that's okay. So that's Sinai. I want to go on though. I have a few more things to say about this Mishnah. What does the word kibel mean? Okay, I'm going to throw out a few questions, one after the other, and then I'll let you think about the questions for a moment, and then I will begin to unravel rather explicate the Mishnah for you so you understand it. The Mishnah says, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, right? And then it says, Umsara Yoshua. He received it, and then masal. What's the difference between kibel and masal?
Passive, active.
But it's a different verb. It could have been the same verb, right?
How can it be the same verb? You accept it and you give it over.
All right, but still, what does kibel mean?
Received.
Received, correct. Received. And then misara. And then what does masa mean?
Transmit.
He transmitted. Okay, so I want to explain those two words. Okay, I'm not saying anybody is wrong. I'm just saying, just wanted you to think about that. Another thing I want you to think about. Let me ask you a question. Who received the Torah from Moses?
It says Yoshua.
Right. Mishnah says, Umsala Yoshua. What is the first pasuk that we all study when we were little children and that we all teach our children?
Morashaki at Yaakov.
Oh, Nathan, correct. The first pasuk is, Torah sivalanu Moshe. Moshe taught the Torah to us, we being, right, the community of Israel, the Kahal of Yisrael. So wait, I'm a little confused then, because the Mishnah seems to say that Moshe gave the Torah to Yehoshua. The pasuk says he actually gave it to all of the Jewish people.
That's not a contradiction.
Okay, go ahead.
The pasuk you're referring to is just talking about in a general sense. Yes, in a general sense, Moshe took it. He gave it to the people. There was a chain of transmission there, but he did give it to the people ultimately.
Let me ask you, did Moshe masar the Torah to the people?
So the word misara in this Mishnah is only 2 times.
Okay,
Or
fair
3
enough.
times.
But it does say so, right? It does say so. You agree?
No, it doesn't say that Moshe was masada to the people in this Mishnah.
Right, it doesn't. It says to Yoshua. Correct.
And then Tanshe Knesset, but I'm saying not to the people ever.
Okay, lo misaratet. So I want to explain that. And I think you would actually like what I'm about to say. I do believe that. So I just want to throw out some of these. Thank you. I just wanted to throw out some of these questions, and now I'm going to interpret what these words mean, because each one of these words is rich with meaning. Okay, and now you're going to see. Okay, Moshe kibel. The word kibel is actually a Semitic word, kof bet lamed. It is a Semitic word which means face to face. So The Gemara says,
Makbil,
right, makbil, hakbala, yes, frontal,
parallel.
correct.
I like
Right. So, for example, in Arabic, when the faithful Muslims they pray in the direction of Mecca, right?
Mm.
And what do they call the direction that they're praying towards? Maybe somebody knows Arabic better than me. The Qibla, right? The Qibla milashon kabal. That's where you have to face. So you face in that direction. So also in the Gemara mentions how when there was elite students and there was less elite students. So for example, it says that when Rabbeinu HaKadosh was a student of Rabbi Meir, he wasn't considered, so important yet. And he used to sit in back of Rabbi Meir, and he saw only the back of Rabbi Meir, meaning he was at a low level. But then there was Talmidim in the Gemara that they would face the teacher. It was
Mekabel panim, like?
Right. Oh, well, actually, what does it say about Moses? What does the Torah say about Moses?
It was panim el panim.
Panim el panim. What does panim el panim mean? Face to face. This is a personal lesson from the teacher, God, to Moses. Kibel means it's not just like, I can sit in front of a computer and the computer doesn't know me. The computer does anybody have this issue where you call up to get customer service for something like internet not working and you have this robot answering? Yes, I would like to help, the chat, I would like to help you. Yes, I understand what you are feeling. And no, you don't understand what I'm feeling. You are a robot. You don't understand anything. Okay. So, but the point is, that's a very impersonal way to learn. So if you're on a computer and you're trying to download information from your mind to the computer, from the computer to your mind, that's not kibble, that's not kibel. There's no life there. When Hashem speaks to Moses, it's personal, right? Hashem is facing Moses and Moses is facing Hashem. And the Gemara says that the teachers would look at the students and the students would actually look at the lips of the teachers. And they would remember it. They would remember not just the words, of course they would remember, but they remember the moving lips of the teacher. And the pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, Yishakeni mineshikot piu kitovim dodecha miyayin. And the Targum there says, what does it mean Yishakeni? He kisses me with his mouth. It says, this is the Hachamim that are studying the Torah Shebe'al Peh. Do you see how profound that Targum is? Because when they would study the Torah Shebe'al Peh, they would look at the face and it was kibel. And this was a personal, almost an intimate relationship. Yes? An intimate relationship between the teacher and the student. So that's kibel, face to face, frontal. You understand the idea? It's a very personal aspect. I love this. Learning Torah is not about being a genius. I mean, you want to be a genius. We all want to be geniuses, but there's an emotional aspect. There's a human aspect. So Shir Hashirim says it's like a man in love with this woman. Right? They love each other. So it's a mashal, right? So it's not just, download information into your brain, boom, boom, boom. Yes. No, it's personal. It's emotional. You understand? So that's the Torah. So that's Kibel. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Okay, that's number one. That's number one. One moment, please.
Wow.
Very profound. Very important. I want to tell you something. Let me give you some advice to all of you. Baruch Hashem, I was privileged. I studied Torah in my life. And the Torah that I have the best is the Torah that I study with passion. When I love, and I love it, thank God. When I study and I love it, it's nothing like it. It brings life to you. But if you're studying Torah like you're studying for a test and you're like, okay, I got to do this, I got to get this, I got to get that, I have to fit. It's not the same. I'm not saying not to do it. It's not the same. But that's the idea of Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Okay. I want to ask another question. Okay, so before we go on, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai, who else received the Torah from Sinai?
Am Yisrael.
Am Yisrael. We didn't receive it from Sinai though, did we? We received it from Moshe, correct? So, did anybody else receive the Torah? Only Moshe. Let's say a Navi comes and a Navi wants to add something to the Torah. He says, guys, there's a new pasuk and here it is. Do we listen to him?
Oh.
No, we don't. Let's say a Nabi says, from now on, we have 610 misvot instead of 613 misvot, and the following misvot are hereby annulled. Do we listen to him? Because Hashem entered into a personal relationship, kibel, panim el panim, only with Moshe Rabbeinu, with no one else. So all the Torah we have comes directly, solely, and exclusively from Moshe. That's the heart of Judaism. All right. Let me,
Rabbi, I have a question.
please. Who's
When
that?
you say Elliot, yeah, sorry, I'm driving, so I don't have the screen on.
Yeah, please.
When you say 613, does everybody agree on all the 613 mitzvot that they're the same?
Right. So the answer is no. There is a machloket between Harambam in Sefer HaMisvot. There was Rabbeinu Tzadya Gaon.
Right. Are we fixated on that number?
No. Everybody agrees that it's 613. Yes, everybody agrees that it's 613 misvot.
Oh, okay.
But the machloket is how do we divide the misvot? So there's a machloket between Rambam and other Hachamim, and maybe one day we can study Sefer HaMisvot. But the important thing is nobody has a right. And Nabi does not have a right to add to the Torah. So the purpose of the Nevi'im is not to add new misvot, is not to subtract from the misvot. The Nevi'im come to enforce the misvot already given by Moshe, because only Moshe spoke to Hashem at that personal, intimate level of panim el panim. Nobody else spoke panim el panim. The Jewish people, by the way, we experienced the presence of God, but it was panim. Who knows the next pasuk? Next word? Panim.
The first two.
Befanim. It says panim befanim, not panim el panim. The only one, pe el pe adaberbo. Who is pe el pe adaberbo in the parasha Ba'alotecha? Demar'eh velo bechidot. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. Only Moshe Rabbeinu was pe el pe. What's pe el pe? Kible. Kibel. You see what pe el pe is? Mamash kibel. So now you see the depth of Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to tell you. All right. Wumsara liYoshua. And then he transmitted the Torah to Joshua. And the question I asked before is, hold on. He actually transmitted the Torah to all the Jewish people. I want to now do a share screen with you. Here we go. You see the pasuk? Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, ale elai hahara v'heyeh sham, ve'etena lecha luchot ha'even.
You're not sharing anything.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, thank you for telling me. I will now share it. I hope this works. Confirm.
I thought it was just me.
Okay. You see it now?
Yes.
Yeah? Good. Okay. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, עלה אלי ההרה והיה שם, ואתנה לך לוחות האבן והתורה והמצווה אשר כתבתי להורותם. That's the pasuk on your screen. Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu, he goes up to the mountain. He receives the tablets, the Aseret HaDiberot, the Ten Commandments. He receives the Torah. He receives the Mitzvah. And then it says, Asher Katati, these are the laws that I wrote down so that you teach them onwards. That's Hashem speaking to Moses. So again, Hashem is telling Moses, I want you to take the tablets, I want you to take the Torah, I want you to take the Mitzvah, and these are the rules that I'm writing down for you because I want you to instruct it onwards. And now look what Harambam says in the Hakdama to the Mishnah Torah, and this is based upon that pasuk. It's based upon the Gemara Masech Berachot that brings that pasuk, and it says as follows: every single mitzvah that Moshe Rabbeinu received in Har Sinai, they were given to Moses with the explanation of the Mishnah. Okay? Every single one. What does that mean? Because I want to elaborate just a bit on this point. Hashem would tell Moshe Rabbeinu, for example, you should tie a sign upon your arm, and there should be a decoration upon your eyes. What does that mean? So Hashem would read the pasuk to Moshe. Moshe would learn the pasuk, and then Hashem would explain the pasuk. So there's the Torah. The Torah means the Torah shebichtav, the actual pesukim in the Torah. And then there's the mitzvah. What is the mitzvah? and this is a kelal among the Geonim, among the Hakamim of Andalus. The misvah, anytime you see the word ha-misvah in the book of Devarim, it's referring, and also here, it's referring to the Torah shebe'al peh, to the explanation of the Torah shebichtav. So, and that's what this is saying. Go back here. ויאמר אדוני אל משה עלה אלי ההרה והיה שם ואתנה לך את לוחות האבן והתורה והמצווה. What's a mitzvah? How many mitzvot are there? There's only one mitzvah? Should I say v'hamitzvot? Why does it say v'hamitzvah in the singular form? Because it's not just one mitzvah. It's actually, the word mitzvah, as I said, are the instructions, the Torah shebe'al peh, the explanations on the Pesukim. So now go back to Rambam. Kol ha-mitzvot shenitenu lo leMoshe b'Sinai beferushan nitanu. What does that mean? What does it mean beferushan nitanu?
They were given with the explanation of how to do it.
Exactly. And how does he know it? Shene'emar ve'etena lecha lochot ha'even v'torah v'mitzvah. Torah zo Torah shebichtav. U'mitzvah zo pirusha. You see that the word mitzvah, what does it mean? It
It's
means
explanation.
the explanation. Vesivanu la'asot ha'torah al pi ha'mitzvah. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he taught us the Torah, he taught us the Torah the way Hashem taught him the Torah. He taught us the Pesukim, and then he taught us the Mitzvah, which is the explanations on the Pesukim. Again, Vesivanu la'asot ha'torah al pi ha'mitzvah. So what does it mean, Torah sivelanu Moshe? Now explain to me the pasuk that you learned when you were little kids. What does the pasuk Torah sivelanu Moshe mean? That when Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah, he didn't just
He
give
gave it to
us.
us with its explanations, with the practical details of how to perform the mitzvah.
Exactly. He gave it to us al pi ha-mitzvah.
Kudos.
Right? And what's that?
Kudos.
Yes, exactly.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes.
The Gemara that this Rambam pulls from, doesn't it call mitzvah Mishnah?
Yes. Why would that be?
Right. Well, I just want to, because I also teach these Pesukim, I teach an introduction to Torah shebe'al peh, and it can't be that the Gemara is referring to the Mishnah as in the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, because there's Tanaim in there, there's different opinions in there. That's definitely more developed than what Moshe received and is giving over. So it must be some primal form of the Mishnah that we won't really know exactly what it looked like.
Okay, let me explain to you. The mitzvah, let's finish this. And this will answer your question. This explanation, that's what we refer to as the Torah shebe'al peh. So now, get this. Moshe gives us the Pesukim. We write the Pesukim down. The explanation of the Pesukim, Moshe teaches us be'al peh. At the end of the life of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe writes a Sefer Torah. He gives everybody a Sefer. Every Shevet gets a Sefer Torah. The explanation, the mitzvah, is be'al peh. Is by heart. Very good. Always the Torah shebe'al peh was by heart. What happened? Comes in the days of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and the Gemara says, "Et la'asot l'Adonai eferu toratecha." The time has come now to put down the Torah shebe'al peh in a written form. That written form was the Mishnah. So the Mishnah is the transformation of the Torah shebe'al peh. The Torah shebe'al peh that we received from Moshe Rabbeinu was always given to us by heart, and it had different forms. I was very privileged to study Igeret Sherira Gaon. Igeret Sherira Gaon was one of the great masterpieces on Talmud. You really, in my humble opinion, if you want to understand Talmud, you have to study Igeret Sherira Gaon. And he explains that before the Mishnah, there was different forms of the Torah shebe'al peh. There was ma'arichim, there was mekaserim, there was different ways to bring the Torah shebe'al peh to the students. Comes Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he takes the Torah shebe'al peh, he transforms it into this text called the Mishnah, and the Mishnah now becomes the Torah shebe'al peh that all of Am Yisrael study together. Now, it's true that at this point in time, there are disagreements between the Chachamim as to particular halachot. That is true. That's part of the Torah shebe'al peh. It's true that when we receive the Torah shebe'al peh, what we see from Moshe Rabbeinu, there were no disagreements, absolutely. Right. But the Torah is not a static system. What do we call the Torah? And actually, I was going to say this later in the class, but I can say it now. The Torah is a tree. A tree is growing. There's new branches. There's new ideas. There's new concepts. It's all related. It's all part of the trunk, right? We're not, God forbid, the branches are not going to attack the tree. So it's all part of this living, organic system. Part of that system is machlokot. I love that. Yes, people disagree. And the Chachamim, even though there's Chachamim who have a particular mindset, and Chacham has another mindset, and we're all part of the same nation, and we all love each other. There's Achdut, Ha'emet v'Hashalom Ehavu. So that's the thing of Moshe keeps on now. So now getting back to what we wanted to say, because I see we have another 15 minutes, and I want to finish this Mishnah. Okay? So Moshe kibel Torah misina, umsara li Yoshua. We see that Moshe actually gave the Torah to all of the Jewish people. He gave the people the Torah shebichtav. He gave us the Torah shebe'al peh, the explanations of the Torah. We all had it. So what does it mean, umsara li Yoshua? What does it mean that Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Torah to Yoshua? And here is the point. Just give me a moment. I want to see if I'm going to do a share screen here. Well, actually, let me unshare this. Stop share. And, okay. Right. Let's do, yeah, I had a few things I want to say, but I'll skip that. Let me go to, okay. I'll share this in a moment. Here's an important point. The word mesira. The word mesira is a technical term. It is used in the context of Chosh and Mishpat. There is an agreement between two parties. Let's say there's a loan agreement where the Reuven makes a loan to Shimon, and it's a written loan. And now the Reuven wants to collect the loan, and Shimon is not paying up. So the Reuven is moser the document to the Bet Din. What does the Bet Din have a right to do with this document? They have the right to read it, and they have a right to interpret the document. But most importantly, they have a right to act upon and enforce this document, right? So let me give you the following. In Judaism, the most important part of the Jewish national system, without which there is hardly a Jewish nation. I mean, we always exist, of course, and the Jewish nation always exists. We're eternal. But I'm saying when I say, and by the way, last week a few times I said the Jewish national identity and ended with the destruction of the temple. I didn't mean Chas v'Shalom Am Yisrael. I was referring to our national institutions. So the most important national institution is the Bet Din. We can be without a king. We've been many times without kings, and we've been fine without kings. We can't be without a Bet Din. The Bet Din is the supreme court of the Jewish people. And always, it was the Supreme Court that had the right to interpret the Pesukim of the Torah in accordance with the Torah shebe'al peh. So, if I'm now sitting in the city of Lod in Israel, and I see the Pasuk and it says, I have to put a letter on my arm. Can I do that? I mean, Moshe gave me the Torah, I'm a Jew. Can I just interpret the pasuk like that? I have to put a letter on the, or it says, I have to put a nice a decoration, and I want to put it between my eyes. It says, ben einecha, between the eyes. I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to put a nice decoration, a nice ornament between my eyes. Am I fulfilling the pasuk? No, I'm not. Because the only ones who have the right to interpret the Torah as a legal document is the Jewish Bet Din. The Jewish Bet Din is the ultimate authority when it comes to interpreting the Torah and saying, here's how you fulfill this pasuk. You know how you fulfill the pasuk, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho, not by sitting down in your house and thinking about Shabbat and trying to remember. No, you fulfill the pasuk by doing kiddush on a cup of wine. And if you want to do it on a cup of apple juice, you can't, even if you like apple juice. Why? Because they're the ones, she'hatorah nimsera lahem. What does mesira mean? It's a formal document that was given to the Bet Din. I want to give you a nice example of this. Give me a moment. I'm going to do a share screen now. And here we go. Okay, so you have a matena chechiv mera. There's a special rule that if a person is about to pass away and he makes an oral declaration, I want to give all my assets to this and this person. Normally, you cannot do that. Normally, if a person says, I want to give everything I own to Joe, doesn't mean anything. I mean, you know, it's unless he sets it down in writing and he writes it down and it becomes a document. But in this case, shechiv mera, a person on his deathbed, he doesn't have time to write the document. One person is there, only one person hears it, and he says, the person dying tells the witness, let's call the witness Reuven, please tell everybody, I want to give all my assets to Shimon. That's called the matena shechiv mera. And look at these words. Who can read to me these words? Hold on. Shedivrei shechiv mera. What does it say?
What is
ketuvim?
As written.
Right. What is written also? The Torah is written, correct? So kichtuvin, right? It's something, it's a written document. It's not written, by the way. It's only be'al peh, of course, because you know that he's a shechiv mera. So it's only be'al peh. Right? And the chimsurin, what does masur mean? Where did you see the word masur? Mesira? Moshe kibel Torah mesira.
Moshe to Joshua.
The same word. This is a technical term indicating that this person has the right, or this court has a right to interpret the law. And here's the final point that I want to make tonight. It wasn't just to Joshua. When Harambam brings this Mishnah in his Hakdama to the Mishneh Torah, he says, Moshe, it says Moses, when he was Moser to the Torah, it was LeYehoshua uBetino. It was to Joshua as the chief justice of the Supreme Court of Israel. This is a matter of a national institution. The national institution is a court. They're the ones who can receive and interpret the Torah. It doesn't mean that we are the Jewish people who didn't receive the Torah. Of course we receive the Torah. It was our gift. We study it. We studied it with Moses. We know how to do the mitzvot. But if there's a question, who has the right to interpret the pasuk? Yoshua, ubetino. And who has the right? Whoever is the betin after Yoshua. And who has the right after them? Whoever is the betin after them. So you understand? That's the way the system works. It's not a free-for-all. You can't just make up things from the Torah. You can't say the pasuk says this and now invent new rules from the Torah. No, that only the betin can do, because the Torah was nimsar to the betin, and therefore the betin can interpret this document. I'm going to do stop share now. Are there any questions on this?
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes. What is your question?
So let's say I think that the Supreme Court is mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So first of all,
I know I have.
Okay. Let me explain.
Let's say it's. Mm-hmm.
Right. First of all, it's very interesting that in Judaism, we are, to my knowledge, the only system where, I mean, for example, in America, you have a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States, by definition, cannot make a mistake. The way they interpret, I mean, we may dislike it, and I do dislike many things, don't get me wrong, but the point is, once a Supreme Court says, this is the interpretation of the Constitution, legally speaking, as a matter of law, that's the interpretation of the Constitution. You can't appeal the Supreme Court. Okay. Interestingly enough, in Judaism, it is possible for the Supreme Court to make a mistake. And if they make a mistake, they actually have to bring a special korban, a korban hatat, a special korban ime'ineh ha'edan esta bishkaga. If the Aidah, which is the Supreme Court, made a mistake, they have to bring a special korban to expiate for the mistake. So there is that possibility. Absolutely correct. But, you know, in order to know that, you have to be a man of learning who himself was exposed to the Torah Shebe'al Peh, and because you were exposed to the Torah Shebe'al Peh, you understand that they made a mistake in a particular matter. That is possible. Yes.
But I'm to the Bet Din if I think they're misinterpreting a halakha that's very clear what its interpretation is?
It depends. If you are a Talmid Chacham and you know that they are interpreting a halakha against the way it was received from Moshe Rabbeinu, then yes, you are not allowed to listen to them. Correct. However, if you are not a Talmid Chacham, you cannot second guess that a Talmid Chacham who received the traditions from Moshe Rabbeinu. You cannot second guess the betin. You cannot. In other words, the possibility of a mistake. When we talk about a mistake, means Moses taught the law this way, and they're mistakenly teaching it another way. That's a mistake. Okay. And you know that because you are one of the Talmidim, you learned it from one of the Shalshelita Kabbalah, so you know what the correct law is. So it is possible, and if you're a Talmid Chacham, you are specifically forbidden to follow the Betin in that case. That's the law. But if you're not a Talmid Chacham, you must follow the Betin, and now the Avirah becomes their Avirah, it's not your Avirah.
So that's what Sivalanu Moshe means, I would say.
Very nice. I think that's a very nice angle. That's right. That we are all in a sense obligated to study the Torah, to know the Torah, and to and we don't just subject ourselves to the whims of potentially, there could be potentially corrupt leaders, as there was in the days of the Maccabees, right? When the leaders before them, they were looking to bring in Greek thinking and culture into Judaism, and we just rejected them. So yes, there is a possibility of corrupt leaders, and if there are corrupt leaders, we reject them. Absolutely. Okay, we have another 5 minutes, so I guess we can now go to the second part of the Mishnah, and I'll explain to you who Anshe Knesset HaGedolah were. Hold on.
Just a quick question, in case we end quickly. I see it says that this is recorded.
Yes.
Is it possible to view this again?
Yes. So let me first of all write down.
The rabbi has to save it and email it to you.
Right. So I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel changed. I was before Lucena Rabbi, and I changed it to Torah Andalus. So here it is. I just put it here. That's my YouTube channel. All my classes are there. For those of you who are wondering, Lucena, there was a great yeshiva in Lucena, which was the yeshiva of Rabbi Yosef ibn Megas, was the yeshiva of Rabbi Yitzhak ibn Gayat, was the yeshiva of Rabbi Yosef Yitzhak Al-Fasi, another great Chachamim. And I changed it to Andalus because there were many other great cities in Andalus, such as Cordova, which was known as the Jewel of Andalus, such as Sevilla, which is where the Al-Baliya comes from, and other great Chachamim. So I decided to be a bit more inclusive. That's the only reason I changed it, nothing more. So anyway, Torah Andalus, it will probably be uploaded there, and you can watch it.
Okay, great. Great.
Okay. All right. So let's just talk a little about who Anshe Knesset HaGedolah were, and then we'll call it a night. I see we have another 5 minutes. So going back to the share screen, I'll share it with you again. Hold on one moment. I think this should work. Yes. Okay. So we have. Okay. So we have here. Uzkanim l'nvi'im unvi'im mesaru le'anshe Knesset HaGedolah. Let's go to Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, known as the men of the Great Assembly. Let me just explain to you what that actually means. So the Jews were in exile after the destruction of the first temple. 70 years later, they returned to Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, they reconstitute themselves, and they form the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. The Anshe Knesset HaGedolah was a newly formed Supreme Court, which included all of the Chachamim, all of the Nevi'im, Haggai, Malachi, Zechariah. Part of that was Mordechai. Part of it was Ezra HaSofer. He was actually the head of the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. There was Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Daniel. Anshe Knesset HaGedolah had a total of 120 people as its members. And the important point to understand here is that the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah represented the political authority of the Jewish people. Interesting. There was no need for a king. We later on had a king, right? But the new Jewish government was Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. That was a new Jewish government. And what they did is they realized that there was a lot of changes. Well, no, I don't like the word changes. That's not a good word. There was a lot of issues at the national level that needed to be dealt with. For example, the Bet HaMikdash was previously destroyed. And when the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, people lost the connection with Avodat Hashem. They weren't doing Avodah. They weren't worshiping God as they used to, because the Bet HaMikdash was always the focal point of that worship. I'm talking about tefillah now. I'm not talking about korbanot. So the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, and many people lost that connection. So they instituted the tefillot. They set forth the prayers that we have today, whether it's the kiddush, whether it's the amidah. They begun to set forth the various prayers of Am Yisrael in a set fashion. Until now, the prayers where everybody was able to pray what they wanted to pray. They prayed how many times they wanted to pray. So Ashek Knesset Gedolah was the newly instituted.
Rabbi, sorry. During the 70 years, we said prayers in the first 70 years, or was after the second Bet HaMikdash?
Right. So we always, the mitzvah to pray is the mitzvah de oraita. So Harambam brings it. And there was always tefillot, but the prayers were very amorphous, meaning there was never a set tefillah. They didn't have to pray
so
3 times a day.
During the 70 years, were they set?
Right, no. So they were not set. And then during the 7 years, people lost that connection because they were far away from Eretz Yisrael. The Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, and people went far away. People stopped speaking Hebrew. That was another issue. Hebrew was no longer the spoken language of Am Yisrael. So the Anshe Knesset Gedolah had to deal with all of the issues that came up as a result of the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, the loss of the Hebrew language, the loss of Jewish culture. They dealt with all these issues. They were the government of the Jewish people when we returned to Israel. And we're going to read next week what they said and what their wisdom was. And basically what they said was, here's how to make a perfect society. We'll see that next week. Now I see it's 9:45, actually 9:44. Any last question or thoughts?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. Two things. So when you spoke about how the Beit Din are the only ones who have the authority to interpret a pasuk, what about the Tanaim and Amoraim? Are they part of a Beit Din, or are you saying after them?
Yeah, no, of course. The Tanaim and the Emoraim, the Tanaim were, they were, of course, and the Emoraim. I mean, the Gemara represents the last Beit Din of the Jewish people. Absolutely. Of course, and that's why you see many derashot in the Gemara and many laws in the Gemara, 100%. But by then, and this is the important thing though, the traditions that we received from Moshe Rabbeinu on how to interpret a pasuk, those traditions were holy. Nobody would say, I disagree. No. I mean, they had the authority to tell us what they learned from Moses, right? Or
Right. So there's Halacha Moshe Misinai also, like Pri Etadaris in Etrog, or the first of the Ktsir Seorah.
Right.
Is that not on a higher authority than Mishnah?
Right. So the point being that it's not, when I say that they had the authority, meaning if you wanted to know what the tradition from Moses was, and you had an argument with your neighbor, what did we receive from Moses? What is the authentic tradition? There were the repositories of the authentic tradition. That's the point, and that's so important. Of course, there were pesukim there were things that weren't interpreted by Moshe Rabbeinu. For example, Zachor Yom Shabbat Lekadosho wasn't interpreted by Moshe Rabbeinu. It was a din that the Chachamim interpreted, but once the Chachamim interpreted that pasuk, that became the interpretation that was that was deposited into the, let's call it the archives or the legislative archives of the Jewish people. So their job wasn't just to we're the new generation and we're going to change everything. Not at all. It's holy, it's sacred, it's what we receive from Moses. But then there's things like Zoom. Can you do a minyan on Zoom? No, you can't. Maybe one day will come a Beit Din and they'll say, I'm not saying they will, I just don't know. But it's possible. But until that Beit Din comes, we can't do a minyan on Zoom. I'd like to do it. It'd be nice to say Kaddish right now, but we can't do it. We don't have the authority because the old Beit Din said that in order to do a minyan, you need to be in the same room, 10 people in the same room. That's it. So I accept it. Yes? Okay,
another question. The Mishnah only talks about the Mesirah 2 times, right? Moshe Kibel Torah Mitzrayim Umsara LeYehoshua and later to Anshe Knesset. So are we to assume that all those people in between since they did not receive the so-called Mesorah, did they not have the right of interpretation and legislation and execution, as you're saying? Why would the Mishnah choose not to say Saral Zekenim, Saral Nevi'im?
Right, no, so it is. It's just being, it's an ellipsis, meaning it's a grammatical construct where you don't have to repeat the same thing. It's understood. So when it says Moshe Kibben Saral Yoshua, Yoshua Liskenim, what Yoshua Liskenim? Yoshua Mesara Liskenim. Uskenim Nevi'im, what Zekenim Nevi'im, Uskenim Mesorah. And it says, and then when it finishes a sentence, and it repeats the verb one last time. So the Mesirah is for all of them. They're all equal in the Mesirah. So it says it at the first time, it says it at the last. It's just the way that Hebrew syntax works.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I very much enjoyed this. I know there's a lot of people who are looking for us, and I'm getting messages they can't find a class, but hopefully next week we'll have the technical issues resolved. And I wish you all a good night.
Thank
very
you.
nice to have you.
Very nice. Thank you.
Good night, Shavuot Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Of course.